Hello, I'm Anadi from SoundsOrange.com, and today I'm here with astrologer Derek Hawkins. Welcome, Derek.
Hi, Anadi. Nice to be here.
Fantastic to have you. Fantastic. I'd like to start with maybe a simple explanation of what astrology is. How does it work?
How does it work? I guess the basic principle is a very simple one, and that is as the moon affects the tides, so each of the planets in the solar system have an effect on what is in the solar system, which includes the sensitive human beings that we are.
And that is based on place, time, date?
No, you're talking about the actual birth chart. This is the way that astrology works. Basically, you draw up a map of the sky at the time the person's born. And in that chart, you will have the placement of the planets at the time they're born. Now, each planet in astrology is given a rulership. Mercury rules the way we think, Venus, love and the heart, and the moon is the emotions. So they all have a different part to play. That's the way it works. And it's the interaction between those planets, the angles between them, which means something to astrologers, which show the qualities of a person through their birth chart.
Fantastic. So, when it comes to 2012, which is what everybody's talking about, astrologically, what's happening? Well,
it's funny because, excuse me, it's a few months ago I was looking at all these predictions, obviously last year, and as 2012 was approaching, I thought, well, I'd better have a look and see what's going on. And of course, I found out that there were meteors due to arrive and sunspots about to occur and solar flares. And then the Mayans, of course, who did seem to have a bit of an eye for the cosmic in their calendars. And many of the, should we say, prophecies and predictions, most of them a bit doom and gloom, were based around the end of the Mayan calendar, which was, in fact, signifying the end, as I understand it. I'm not a studier of Mayan calendars, but as I understood it, it was the end of a particular sun cycle, a big major sun cycle. So, and the beginning of a new one. So far so good. So I'm looking into this and I'm saying, well, okay, what astrologically is happening? And then it came to, I looked through the year and I thought, well, yes, it's going to be a crazy old year because we are in the midst of crazy old years. You don't get a Aquarian age born out of placidness and calm and tranquility. It needs a bit of craziness, a bit of reshuffling. So anyway, when I looked at the 20th and 21st of December, which is what the predictions are aiming at, I could see that there was a very rare alignment then between Pluto, the planet of death and rebirth, Saturn, the planet of mastery, and Jupiter, the planet of, well, which rules amongst other things, spiritual knowledge and truth. And of course, there are other finer details in that. But anyway, it was this alignment that made me start to think, well, what are we going to get through 2012 through this alignment? And most of my workshops this year I'm doing are aimed at helping people to see how they can use that alignment in relevance to their chart, their qualities, what they will learn this year, and from that peak once-in-a-lifetime alignment that happens in December. So I'm looking at that. Then I thought I'd have a look at the Mayans. And I went back in there and I was thinking about the sun. And my train of thought went this way. They worship the sun. The sun was a big gold thing in the sky, which was their creator. Now, the truth of the matter is, as you and I know, there can be no life without the sun. So in that way, the sun is the creator. So happy were they about this, that they had huge temples, huge gods built, made wonderful things out of gold, and had this great idea of actually sacrificing people by cutting their hearts out. Now I'm thinking, it's not right, it's not clever, and it's not grown up, right, to do this. Yeah? So that got me thinking that somewhere or other, in those olden times, because they were still building pyramids in Egypt, big things, big, massive gold statues, all of these things, there was really no compassion. Nobody had in their heart that compassion to say, you know, the sun's fine. I don't mind worshipping the sun and Ra, the sun god, or whatever. But these sacrifices, this is just taking it a little bit. No, I do feel sorry for him, you know, or his mum. You know, how can they do this to him? You know, cut his heart out. So I'm thinking about this. And what is the symbology of this? And then my mind starts clicking all little bits together, as it does. And I thought to myself, well, perhaps what we're heading for is, at the end of this sun, is another type of sacrifice. That's one thing. Now, the other thing is the evolution of the heart. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Can I go on?
Carry on.
Okay.
Please do.
Well, I'm thinking about this sacrifice then. For many years, even if the people aren't astrologers, they've been talking about the Aquarian age. Now, the Aquarian age is the opposite, because Aquarius, in terms of a zodiac sign, is opposite Leo. So it's the opposite of Leo. What is Leo signified by? Gold, fame, huge temples, huge gods.
Right.
So back in those days, in the olden days, the power was with the temple priests. The power was with these people that had the gold. Now, of course, everything's changed now. No, it hasn't. Of course, it's still power. It's still gold. And let me come back to this Aquarian thing. The Aquarian idea is the idea of equality, that humanity we share with each other, that we elect our government. I mean, did you and I, did your neighbours send people to Iraq to fight? Did we choose that? Did we? Did we choose the government? Do we choose?
That's right.
So we're heading for this real democracy where people actually choose, but more importantly, where we have to live our lives with the awareness and the acknowledgement of our friends and neighbours, as well as our family and our friends and the foreigners and everybody.
Fantastic.
So this is a massive thing. Now, coming back to some of these prophecies, it's my observation that as a general rule, people, will say humanity, will say us, we're included, don't change unless they have to. So I'm thinking to myself, how will we, humanity, change to respect, to love, to be compassionate, to be open, to be honest, to be understanding, to be caring? How will we change to be like that? Which to me is common sense in a world where you want people to be nice to each other.
Of course.
Yeah, okay. So it's like, what's going to do? So then I started thinking, well, what pulls people together? Disaster. So this is where we get to the sticky bit. Because I'm thinking that with natural disasters, people have to pull together. And I have, and this is my opinion, it may be wrong, a feeling that we are heading for a time when natural disasters, and perhaps those caused by humanity at all as well, I mean, although I never see war as being part of that. I don't think wars are going to be a problem to me. They always have been, but they'll just keep on being a problem that they are. But if there's a lot of natural disasters, then somehow we will be stretched. Humanity will be really stretched. And when it's really stretched in its resources, then it's got to consider how many fossil fuels it's burning, how much food it's throwing away. I mean, you and I, we can choose to eat what we want. We can choose to eat for pleasure. There's many, many, many people in the world haven't got that luxury, that basic need, water. They haven't got it. Now, I believe that that won't be right or possible in the future. It isn't right now, but it won't be possible in the future. If for no other reason than the survival of this planet. I mean, this planet is going to survive. Humanity is on a wing and a prayer, to be honest with you. But the planet will survive. Now, let me come back to the heart and the evolution of the heart that I was talking about. As I see it with the Roman arenas, there was nobody sitting in the gallery saying, oh, crikey, those poor old Christians, I do feel sorry for. It wasn't happening.
Of course.
And I believe that as we have evolved, so has the heart. And so has our ability, to feel, and a word you used as we were setting up, to empathise. I mean, many people will tell me that they can't watch the news. They can't watch things because they're too upset.
Of course.
And this is when we're just talking about Bambi here, that slew me as a child, I have to say. But if you see these things, we moved more, we feel more. But going back to the Mayans, when we were ruled by raw energy and we were ruled by greed and fear, we're still there. That still is a part, but it's becoming much more transparent that that's it.
Yes.
And as a personal view, I believe that the whole thing of politicians and financiers running this world is finished. It is no more, and it slowly, they've got to go.
Right.
They've got to go. But this is the bit that worries me, and not a lot worries me, I have to say. I'm pretty laid back. But what worries me is that to all intents and purposes, it seems that anarchy is the only answer to it. How are we going to go from those politicians and financiers to the world where we want to be? How are we going to do that? So I'm wondering if on the 21st of December and the 20th of December 2012, the end of this year, we won't get this alignment of Jupiter, which is spiritual knowledge, in the area of Gemini, it's in the sign of Gemini, which is about understanding and communications, connected to Saturn, the ruler of mastery, in Scorpio, which rules survival and greed and fear and all of those things.
Right.
And Pluto, which represents power and destiny, in the sign of Capricorn, which rules governments, the world structure, the organisation, the way we organise things. So will we find a way through? That's my thought. How would we go?
Interesting.
Now, I want to come back now, because I haven't finished with... I seem to be saying a lot. I hadn't finished with this compassion thing.
Right.
So, people getting more and more into their hearts, maybe this idea of the fact that, hey, I've got my terraced house, I've got my sky box, I've got my Tesco's club card, I've got maybe as that will break down. So more and more it's like, okay, let's see what we can have. Let's see what we can all have.
Yeah, we've got our rather than I've got my.
Exactly.
Right.
So there will be a sacrifice of our heart and the I again. I mean, in a way, this is heading for kind of enlightenment. And we're talking about enlightenment on a huge scale. Not enlightenment in the sense that we're going to sit on a hill and tell people how to be good, but enlightenment, an enlightened way of being.
Right.
And if you go back to some of the people in the past, if I think about Ramana Maharshi and his work and the people that he had, the devotees that came to see him, there was a day when he went in and had his breakfast, I believe the story goes, and people came in after him and they'd run out of milk. He'd had his milk. After that, he'd never had milk. Because some had to go without because he didn't have, because he'd had his milk.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that principle.
Right. That's where you see us as the human race heading.
I do. And
Right.
you know what? If we look at this gold stuff, if we look at this pyramid stuff, if we look at this grand whatever the word is, I'm not very educated, so I don't know. Grandizement?
Grandiose.
Yeah, that sort of thing. So all that self-development that people do, all of that self-inquiry they do. The whole point of that is that you get to see, this is my interpretation of it, right? The whole point is that you get to see that inside of you, you are absolutely pretty damn good. You are a fantastic being. You are actually a spark of creation.
Of course.
Now, here's the good bit. That's the easy bit. Now, a lot of people have done that in the past, then they pop their clogs and they're enlightened, you know, and what have you. But here's the good bit, right? So, recognizing inside the wondrous being that you are, you see it in other people. That's the thing. That's where all the self-development takes you. Absolutely. That's the purpose. That makes you, puts you in a position of using your consciousness for the good of all.
Absolutely.
And you remember the Buddha, if you remember the story where he said, no, I'm not going to go through the final gates of nirvana. This is my remembering of the story many years ago. But I'll help people. I will stay and I will help people.
Yeah, wasn't it along the lines of, I'm not going to go through until everybody's ready to go through?
Yes, that's right.
Along those,
yes, that's right.
Those lines. Yes.
It's an amazing thing. And I wanted to mention to you today, I hope you don't mind me saying this, that a few years ago with a friend, I set up a charity called the Iris Trust,
right,
which you can find online, the Iris Trust. And what it does is it takes meditation, simple body meditation, relax your legs, relax your body, into women's refuges. Oh, so it takes these meditations into a place as dark as you can get.
Right.
Now, if we look at this rotten stuff, this core of society, which people want to change, and if you think about the people that have been doing their meditation courses, doing their self-development, what are they going to do with it? Come here to this refuge and share what you've learned. Share that awareness. Give these women who have suffered terribly, and I know men are in the same boat in some instances, suffered terribly, to bring that bit of light and sensitivity to fill the dark, miserable hole of self-worth and fear that they develop. So anyway, I wanted to mention that as an example of passing on what we've learned, what we've gained.
And this is all part and parcel of us moving into this new Aquarian age.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Yeah, fantastic. I mean, what better use of yoga and Reiki and meditation than to help people like these women at the Iris Trust. Yeah, fantastic. Brilliant. It's interesting you mentioned Leo, because for me, Leo is the lion, and it's all about roaring, and it's all about pride, right?
Yes.
It's the big mane and... Okay, so if that's Leo, what is Aquarius?
Interesting. Aquarius is symbolised, because the Leo, the lion is the symbol, obviously, of Leo. It's symbolised by the water bearer. Now, in mythology, and I'm not that good at this sort of stuff, so I'm a little bit flaky around the edges, but in mythology, as I understand it, the mythic goddess Iris was the rainbow goddess, also the rainbow being a symbol of Aquarius, who poured spirit onto humanity. So she poured that light of consciousness.
Oh, wow.
To awaken.
And that's where
is where we're heading. To waken up. And there's a few things that have to go on the way.
Of course, transformation doesn't just happen overnight, does it?
No. In a way, I was thinking, coming here today, I was just thinking about how humanity really needs to grow up. And I was thinking that we're really just teenagers now. We've got our gadgetry, we've got our satellites, and we can go to Mars, and we can do all these things, but we need that growing up bit.
We need to move out of adolescence, really, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in a way, in all my work and whatever I say, whenever I'm doing public talks, I always make an effort to say that I would never wish to judge or condemn anyone's religion or beliefs. However, my own belief is that we don't need stories anymore, in the sense of someone's watching us. This is what you say to the little kids. Absolutely. The Gruffalo will get you. Someone will get you. You've got to behave.
Absolutely.
So there they are. They have all these ideas, all these commandments, all of these things to tell you how to behave. Because we couldn't be trusted. Because we were ruled by raw emotions.
Right.
Because we hadn't developed. And if we saw something, that's mine. I'm having that.
Right.
And that's just mildly, you know. So yes, we still contain the old, but in a way we can no longer say we don't know the way that's better. The better path we know now, and it's hard to avoid.
It's interesting you say that, because I have noticed, and maybe it's the circle of friends that I'm in, more and more kids, children, young adults are into meditation and Reiki and all these other self-help development practices, and they talk about it as if it's second nature. Yeah. Which is very encouraging.
Well, I think, in a sense, I think it is. I do think that they have that quality, you know, because if, you know, from an astrological point of view, there are a few years back now, about, let me see if I can get this right, about 28 or so years back, the planet Neptune went through Sagittarius.
Right.
So people who are 28 today, or you know, a little bit older, when they were born, Neptune was in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is about belief and religion. Neptune, that generation, was about letting go of belief systems.
So are these the children at that time that were referred to as the indigo children? Is this...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were. In part, they carried I think they carried a quality, planetary, genetically, hereditary, whatever, that meant that they could be self-reliant, and that what they experienced to be true was going to far outweigh what they were told was true.
Oh, that's a great balance to have.
Yeah, well, it's good. So, in other words, they were willing to learn from experience. Now, out of that, of course, many have gone off the rails, but there are still the ones that, you know, yeah. I mean, you give a kid something to play with, they'll play with it. Someone will, you know, they'll go wrong with it, and someone will be making things with it. Yeah.
Well, you know, I think I'm a believer. Maybe. You know, too much hope, but those that go off the rails, maybe when they come back on the rails, will have more valuable lessons to impart, more teachings.
Well, that's yes. Well, yeah, that's one of my favourite subjects, actually. I like just the idea of making mistakes. Actually, right. I like them making mistakes thing, and you know, I like these clever quotes that you read in my diaries, for instance, but that I've put in there, but they're not my quotes, but they're quotes I found, and they're, you know, quotes basically saying, you know, you're not going to live unless you make a mistake.
Of course.
You know, give it a go.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because then we look at the health and safety and the craziness that surrounds those kinds of philosophies. Then it's the total opposite. It's the totally extreme. You know, you and I, perhaps when we were children, we could go out and where is he? He isn't back yet and it's dark. Well, hopefully he'll be back soon.
Yeah.
You know, but...
Not these days.
No.
Not so much.
No, it's just different.
Of course.
It's different.
Of course. I would like to come back to the 21st of December 2012.
Okay.
These planetary alignments that you spoke of earlier on, they're known as fingers of fate,
it's a triangle.
Oh, is that what it is? It's a triangle. Okay. Right. Fantastic.
A finger of fate. There you are.
Right. Okay.
And at the top of it is Jupiter. Right. Expansion, growth, spiritual knowledge.
Right. Okay.
And at the bottom is Saturn and Pluto here.
Right.
Pluto is in Capricorn.
Right.
Which is the sign ruled by Saturn.
Right.
And Saturn's in Scorpio, which is the sign ruled by Pluto. So as you can see, they're actually it's very
conspiring,
cunning. Conspiring.
Right.
Very good, though. I mean, I couldn't believe that it was actually on the same date as they're all predicting that this was occurring.
Oh, yeah, quite a
But
find.
when I thought about it for a little while, I realised that, of course, Jupiter in Gemini, Jupiter also rules journalism. So I could imagine the headlines on the 22nd of December, you know, we're still here, you know, still selling the newspapers, and this is fantastic. Yeah. We have not gone anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
Or maybe so far, so good. You know?
Yes.
8 days to go.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's an exciting time coming up, I think.
It is a very exciting time, yeah, and a crazy old time as well. It's challenging, which is my way of saying that it's difficult and we have to adapt.
Right, but I think a lot of people are ready for a change.
A lot of people are ready for it. It's knowing how. Well, yeah, a lot of people know it's going to happen and it has to happen, but how to get there, what to do, because we've got to pay our mortgage and we've got to raise our children, we've got to feed spend time with our grandchildren, we've got all these things to do. So these are the real things. As a Taurus, I'm always keen to promote the everyday, the ordinary, the down to earth, you know, how to do this and do that. And I think therein is a little bit of an answer, because I think with Jupiter at the moment in Taurus, which it is until June, when it moves into Gemini, until June it's in Taurus. Now Taurus is about values. What is valuable? What is worthwhile? And of course the questions are, is it worth having money in the bank for a rainy day, or is it worth spending it on a holiday of a lifetime? I mean, is it worth it?
Right.
You know, is it worth having a great job in the city that pays loads of money and you're totally stressed out, or is it worth it?
Right.
So these are the questions. This is what people are asking. I think I am.
Yeah.
Is it worth doing what we're doing? And I think in a way it is as simple as just doing what we're already doing, keeping an eye on where we are, not the horizon. See, I think it is a little bit crazy out there in terms of the way we could predict the future. It is predictably unpredictable.
Right.
And the solutions and the answers aren't there. You know, take the Buddha, for instance. Now, here he was, living in this palace, happy as anything, until he realised that there was more to life than riches and royalty.
Absolutely.
So off he went, did a bit of Alexander technique, bit of Reiki, all of this sort of stuff. Nothing happened, but he did try very hard. In the end, this is my interpretation of the story, by the way, I must say, to those Buddhists out there, I apologise. Yeah. So, and then in the end, he thought, well, you know what, I'll just sit down under this tree and relax. Absolutely. Sat down, Bob's your uncle. There he is, enlightened. So in a way, it's about keeping it simple, because if we're working, say, in a factory and we're thinking about, well, it's nearly 5 o'clock, at 5 o'clock I've, you know, worked another £10 off my credit card, it's going to drain you dry. Right. You know, we've got to keep where we are, because if we look to the future and paying off debts and all of that, being out of the moment. Right. See, this is my other thing. I think that in a way, spirituality really has a chance now of coming to humanity.
Fantastic.
And I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about spirituality.
You're talking about being here now.
Yes, and I'm talking about being here now, but I'm also talking about the sacredness of life. Right. Now, you think about the Native Americans, right? To them, the buffalo was sacred. And the plains were sacred. Now, they weren't sacred because they'd been born out of the left leg of a buffalo or some huge religious thing. Absolutely. They were sacred to them because they lived on them. They were part of their life cycle. Their tribe needed them. So there was that relationship with their environment, yes. And I dare say other Aboriginal people have had this as well, without doubt. But that connection with the environment, with the earth, with the seasons, with the ground, with the food that they eat, that's what I'm talking about in terms of sacredness.
Right.
So, if we're under stress or we're challenged to pick or not pick what we eat more carefully, you see where I'm going?
Absolutely.
So there becomes a greater awareness and a greater value. When you've only got a bowl of rice to eat a day, I tell you, you're very grateful for that.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah. That's it. So I think it's that sacredness that might is coming back. And I do have to say again, and it has nothing to do with religion.
It can encompass any religion.
Yeah, well, no, religions, all religions have good things in them. And that's the people, basically.
Right.
Not the religion. It's the people with their hearts and their caring and their sharing.
Right.
And that's what makes, that's spirituality, basically.
Yeah.
And that occurs, of course, in every religion.
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that brings me nicely round, actually, to the work that you do.
Ah!
I mean, if you were to have a goal or a mission or a statement with the work you do, what would that be?
To be spiritual about it, I would say to know thyself. To be plain and ordinary about it, I would say to know thyself.
Right.
So actually, that's my point. To help, I don't predict specific events in people's futures in my astrology, for instance. I've never done that. I'm against it.
Right.
And I'll tell you for why. Because I don't believe that the future is written in stone.
Right.
That would make us robots. That would mean that we will fulfilling some destiny rather than co-creators in this wonderful world. And I happen to believe that we are co-creators, and I do believe that we create our world. However, the extent to which we can be considered creators of our world is the extent to which we know ourselves.
Of course.
I mean, I've had people, I think I can share this with you, I've had people come to see me that have had cancer, and had people give them, 6 copies of Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life.
Right.
Saying that somehow, or with the implication somehow, that they created the cancer.
Right, okay.
Well, nobody creates cancer.
Right.
Unawareness can create cancer, but not awareness. Awareness doesn't do it.
Right.
So it's no good punishing someone. See, I'm against all that stuff. So getting back to your point, getting back to your question. So with astrology, I tried to, it's a manual. This is the way things are with you. You can use it like this, you can use it like that, you can do it like this, you can do it like that. Right. And then people say to me, and they come back to me, and the feedback that I get tells me, yeah, you've helped me to be myself. You have helped me to make my own decisions and make my own choices. Great. And sounds crazy, but if it puts me out of work, I'm happy.
I understand that. I'm happy. That. Yeah.
So they don't need any guidance, It's not like a psychic phone line where you phone up and they give you more advice, then they give you more advice, So in a way, I like to throw people back on themselves by giving them the tools to look.
Right. Very, very interesting. Also, what I find interesting is that our paths or our lives aren't predetermined. They may be influenced by planetary influences, but they're not predetermined.
Yes, it's a bit of a strange one. I wouldn't pretend to understand everything about that, but for instance, someone was talking to me once about power and destiny.
Right.
And as is my way, I kind of get pictures in my mind to kind of answer people sometimes. And I got this picture of this river.
Okay.
Running down from the mountains towards the sea. This river, a little trickle, power, gaining power, down to the river, into the river, down the river, into the sea, melting with the ocean.
Right.
And then I saw these people, right, us. And there we are in the river. Now that river is heading downstream and it's heading towards the sea.
Right.
We can swim upstream, but eventually we will get tired and go under, and the river will take us down to the sea.
Absolutely.
We can cling to the bank, but eventually we'll get cramp and we'll go under, and the river will take us down to the sea.
Absolutely.
We can swim up a bit, hold on to the bank a bit. We can lay on our backs saying, wow, let this river take me. I'm going, I'm happy. And then just go to, but that river is going to the sea.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
so I think the shape we give it, the form we give it, the resistance we have, the challenges we choose.
Right, okay.
Etc. So it's really the shape of it.
Right. Ah, interesting.
Yeah. The other thing I was thinking, in this regard. Someone was talking about, okay, we got two people,
right,
born at the same time,
right,
totally different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, one's a man, one's a woman. You know, one's a flight attendant, the other one's a car mechanic. How can this be? Doesn't this prove astrology is wrong?
Right.
Now, my answer to that one, and of course this would apply for twins,
right,
is that, well, Anadi, say you and I went into a car showroom. We picked an identical model of car, exactly the same make, model.
Right.
We drove away at exactly the same time. Now, what you did with your car wouldn't be the same as what I did with mine.
Absolutely.
That's the difference. That, I think, in my imagination, is what proves the existence of the soul. And that's why having a skilled, this is an advert, right? This is why having a skilled, intuitive astrologer, you can see who's behind the wheel.
Right.
It's not like a printout from a computer.
Absolutely.
I do my best, as do other intuitive astrologers.
Absolutely, absolutely. It brings me nicely on to resources that you may have that people can look at and get in touch with you.
Yes, find out. Well, the best resource I have is my website, which is www.derekhawkins.com.
Fantastic.
That's the way to find me.
And you've got a lot of stuff on there, I know.
Yeah, I've got monthly horoscopes I put on there. There's I do a bit of creative work as well. I do calendars and canvases and astrological cards and things like that. So it's worth it. Someone actually said to me they spent 2 hours on it the other day when they should have been doing something else. So that pleased me.
Yeah, of course.
But yes, and of course I am available. My phone number's there in the contact, so if people want to phone me up. I'm always happy to have a chat, actually.
Yeah,
I believe that personal contact, and when people,
it's important, isn't it?
It is important. When you get emails saying hello, and you send back an email saying hello, and and then no, speak to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, thank you.
Derek, well, thank you. It's been very, very lovely having you here, and very insightful.
Oh, good.
Hearing about your 2012 predictions.
Oh, well, thank you. And I didn't fidget too much.
And you didn't fidget too much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you.